Every morning in Norwood, Kansas, the sun rose slow and golden over cracked sidewalks and the hum of old neon. It was the kind of town that hadn't changed in decades, where everyone knew your name or thought they did. At 5:45 a.m., Jenny Millers would descend the stairs from her tiny apartment above the pharmacy, tie her faded blue apron, and unlock the doors to Rosie's Diner. The place smelled of coffee grounds and memories. Jenny greeted each regular with a practiced smile, pouring warmth into every mug, even when her own heart felt hollow. She had no family left nearby, just yellowed photos of her parents and an aunt who now lived in Arizona. The silence in her apartment was constant, but here, behind the counter, she found purpose in small gestures: a fresh pot of coffee, a perfectly flipped pancake, the way butter softened toast at just the right second. It was on a Tuesday morning in early October that she first noticed him. A boy, no more than 10, slipped into the diner as if afraid to disturb the air, small for his age, with cautious eyes that scanned everything and revealed nothing. He took the booth furthest from the door, his backpack nearly swallowing him, a weathered book already open on the table. When Jenny approached, he looked up. Briefly, "Just water," he said quietly. She brought it with a smile and a paper straw. He nodded, a motion so faint she almost missed it. The next morning, the same thing, and the next, and the one after that. Always 7:15 a.m. Always water, always gone before 8. Jenny watched him from the counter, noting how he never touched the menu, how he watched others eat like it was a movie he couldn't afford a ticket to. By the second week, she knew his pattern better than the morning rush, and on the 15th day she made a decision. She carried a plate of pancakes to his table. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, as if confused. "The kitchen made an extra. I'll just leave it here, no use throwing it out." The boy looked up, eyes wary. Hunger and suspicion wrestled behind them. "It's okay," Jenny added softly. "Better to eat it than waste it, right?" Then she walked away before he could answer, heart thudding harder than it should. From behind the counter she watched him stare, and then, slowly, pick up the fork. 10 minutes later, the plate was clean. He didn't look at her when she returned, didn't smile. But as she cleared the dish, he whispered so quietly it almost disappeared between them. "Thank you." That was all. No names, no questions, just food, just trust. The ritual began. Mistaken orders became daily occurrences. Pancakes, scrambled, eggs, oatmeal when the frost hit the windows. The boy never asked for anything, never lingered past 8 a.m., but over time, his shoulders dropped just a little. His eyes met hers a second longer, and Jenny understood. Some connections don't need words, they just need warmth. The kindness stayed quiet, but the world around her didn't. By the 6th week, regulars had started to notice. Harold, the retired postal worker, leaned across the counter one morning, eyeing the boy's booth. "Who's that kid you keep feeding?" he asked, not unkindly, but with the curiosity of someone trying to draw lines between things that didn't quite fit. Jenny shrugged. "He's just hungry. Never seen his folks. Just shows up, eats, and vanishes." "I know." She didn't elaborate, because what could she say? That the boy never asked for anything? Did he watch the world like someone who'd already learned it couldn't be trusted? Kathy, the woman working the grill, caught Jenny in the back after the 3rd week. Her voice was low, matter of fact. "You're feeding a stray." Jenny didn't argue. "They don't stick around, Jen. You give handouts, they learn nothing. You're setting yourself up to care too much." "I used to be that hungry too," Jenny replied quietly. It was the most personal thing she'd ever shared with a coworker. The boy never gave his name. Jenny never asked. His presence was a whisper in the morning rush, silent, consistent, overlooked by most, but not by her. She kept his water glass full. She made sure the food was warm. She gave him a place where for 40 minutes no one asked why, but not everyone saw it that way. One morning, a sharply dressed businessman at the counter said, "You running a charity now? He doesn't even order, just eats. Jenny didn't answer. She just kept pouring coffee. Kids these days, another customer chimed in. Used to be you earned your breakfast. The remarks grew louder, more pointed. Then Mark called her. Into the back. I've been watching you with that kid, he said, arms crossed. You know we can't give away free meals. This is a business. I'll cover it, she said before he could finish. From my tips. Jenny, your tips barely cover rent. I know. Just one meal a day. I can manage. Mark sighed, eyes searching hers. If it affects your work or if that kid causes any trouble, it ends. Got it? She nodded. Got it. Each morning after that, Jenny quietly set aside a few dollars. It was money that could have gone to a dentist appointment or a coat without holes in the sleeves. But she didn't hesitate. Then, one cold Thursday in November, he didn't come. She glanced at the door. Again and again. 15 passed, then 7:30. She prepared his usual plate anyway, set it at his booth. Waste of food, Kathy muttered. By close, the untouched plate felt like a memorial. Jenny wrapped it up and took it home. The next day, still no boy. The next. Empty booth. A week passed, no sign. She tried to shake the ache. He was a stranger. She didn't even know his name. But somehow, it felt like she was missing someone. On the 10th day of his absence, someone took a photo of the untouched plate. The next morning, Jenny found the image on Facebook. Rosie's Diner, now serving imaginary charity cases. The comments? Harsher. Bet she throws the food out and calls it a tax write-off. Feeding strays just creates freeloaders. She's being played. That night, Jenny sat alone on her small couch, staring at her father's photo. The only family she had left. Army medic, kind eyes, a steady presence in a chaotic childhood. She reached for the small wooden box she hadn't opened in years. Inside, his service journal. She flipped to a page she knew by heart. Shared a half ration with a local boy today. Johnson says I'm crazy. Maybe. But the look in that kid's eyes? Same one I had when Mom gave me the last piece of bread. No one grows poor by sharing half a loaf, but those who forget to share stay hungry forever. She traced the words with her fingertip, her throat tight. No, she hadn't been wrong, because hunger wasn't just about food, and kindness never needed an explanation. It was the boy's 23rd day absent. Jenny still prepared the plate. Habit, maybe, or hope. At 9:17 a.m., just when she was about to clear the cold pancakes, a hush swept over the diner like a passing storm cloud. A moment of collective stillness. 4 black SUVs pulled into the gravel lot. Dark-tinted windows, government plates. The vehicles aligned in practiced symmetry. No honking, no hesitation. The kind of arrival that felt choreographed. Forks paused mid-air. Conversations cut mid-sentence. Jenny froze by the coffee pot. Doors opened. Men in uniform stepped out, all in precise coordination. But it was the man who stepped out last, tall, broad-shouldered silver hair beneath a decorated military cap, who made every heartbeat in the room stop for a beat longer. Colonel David Reeves, U.S. Army Special Forces. He walked with purpose, flanked by 2 younger officers. The bell above the diner's door chimed like a warning. Mark came rushing from the back, nervously adjusting his tie. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" he said, voice thin. Colonel Reeves removed his cap. "I'm looking for someone named Jenny." The diner held its breath. Jenny stepped forward. "I'm Jenny." The colonel looked at her, direct, steady, but with something softer beneath the authority. "My name is Colonel David Reeves. I'm here because of a promise made to one of my men." He pulled out an envelope. Sealed. Official. "This is a letter from the commanding general of Special Forces, and I have a message. From Adam's father." Jenny blinked. "Adam?" "The boy you've been feeding." Her world tilted. Colonel Reeves continued. "Adam Thompson. His father, Master Sergeant James Thompson, served under me. He spoke of you in his final letter." Jenny's hand shook as she reached for the envelope. "Is Adam okay?" "He's safe. living with his grandparents now. But for months he came here every morning before school, alone after his father was deployed and his mother left. The room grew stiller. He never told anyone. Too proud, too scared he'd be taken away. But he wrote to his father. And his father wrote to us. Colonel Reeves unfolded the letter. "If I don't come back, please find the woman named Jenny at Rosie's diner. My son says she never asked why he was alone. She just fed him." Jenny's eyes blurred. "Tell her she didn't. Just feed a hungry child." She preserved the dignity of a soldier's son. The room that had once whispered judgment now stood in reverent silence. Colonel Reeves stepped back and saluted. Behind him, every soldier in the room followed. Outside in the parking lot, the others did too. Jenny stood motionless, the letter pressed to her chest. Her kindness, once questioned, now honored. She had no words, only tears. Colonel Reeves nodded. Sometimes feeding a hungry child, without asking questions, is the greatest act of service there is. And that morning, everyone in that diner learned what honor really looked like. The morning after the colonel's visit, Rosie's Diner was no longer just a place for coffee and pancakes. It had become something else, a symbol. Word spread quickly, first in whispers across town, then through social media. The same Facebook group that once mocked Jenny's imaginary charity now reposted the colonel's tribute. Thousands shared it. A few even apologized. Veterans began showing up. Active duty soldiers passing through made quiet detours to sit in Adam's old booth. Some left behind military patches or challenge coins, small emblems of respect. Mark, the diner's owner, surprised everyone by hanging a modest American flag above the booth. Beneath it, a plaque, reserved for those who serve, and those who wait. The plaque never gathered dust. That seat stayed warm day after day. Customers started asking for Jenny's section, not for attention, but for the quiet dignity she represented. One afternoon, Mark approached Jenny with a manila envelope. "A letter came for you," he said. Inside was a child's handwriting, uneven but deliberate. "Dear Miss Jenny, I didn't know your name until that day, but I never forgot your face. Every morning you looked at me like I wasn't broken, like I mattered. Dad used to say heroes wear uniforms. I think sometimes they wear aprons too. Thank you for seeing me, even when..." "Couldn't explain. Your friend, Adam P.S. I finished the book. It had a happy ending after all." Jenny framed the letter, not front and center, but tucked just behind the counter, where only she could see it during the rush. She didn't need public praise. She just needed to remember. One quiet morning, nearly a year later, she found a coin on her order pad, a Special Forces insignia on one side. The other read, "Semper Memor," always remembering. No note, no signature, just a reminder that kindness, given quietly without question, never goes unnoticed. And sometimes it comes back to you in the form of 4 black SUVs, a folded letter, and a nation's salute. Rosie's Diner still opened at dawn. The coffee still brewed, the pancakes still flipped, and Jenny still tied her faded blue apron with the same practiced hands. But something had shifted. Not in the menu, not in the decor, in the air, in the eyes of those who came through the door. A young mother with 2 children, one too shy to speak, now found a table always open. A retired soldier on his way to the VA hospital made a stop, not for the food, but for the seat beneath the plaque. Quiet glances passed between strangers, acknowledging something they couldn't name, but deeply felt. Kindness had left a mark. Mark, the once gruff owner, surprised Jenny one slow morning by pointing at the diner window. A new sign hung there now. Simple, elegant. Whoever you are, however you came, no one leaves hungry. He caught her glance, shrugged like it was nothing. But Jenny knew better. The small things always meant the most. Word of what happened had long since reached beyond Norwood. Stories were shared in military forums, family chats, news outlets. But none of it changed the way Jenny carried herself. She still walked 3 blocks in the early dark, still remembered her father's words. No one grows poor by sharing half a loaf. Some nights, When the rush slowed and the lights turned, soft, Jenny would glance toward the corner booth and swear she could still feel Adam's presence. Not as a ghost, not as a memory, but as a reminder that every act of compassion is an investment in someone else's strength, and sometimes the smallest kindness becomes the hinge on which entire lives quietly turn. When a school field trip brought in a dozen children one spring, a wide-eyed girl looked at Jenny and said, "My dad's in the Navy. He says you're a hero." Jenny smiled, kneeling beside her. "I'm not a hero, sweetheart," she said. "Just someone who saw someone hungry and gave them a plate." But that wasn't the whole truth, because she'd given more than breakfast. She'd given a boy his dignity, a father peace of mind, and a country a moment to remember what service really looks like, even when it's wrapped in a napkin and slid. Cross a diner table without a single question. As the sun dipped behind Norwood's horizon, painting the town in slow amber, Jenny stood at the counter and slipped the Special Forces coin from her apron pocket. Semper memor, always remembering. And for those who watched this story unfold, who held their breath when the SUVs pulled in, who saw the salute, the tears, the truth, remember, this wasn't fiction. This was a reminder that someone out there today might be sitting in silence, hoping the world sees them, and maybe all it takes is one plate, one moment, one person, to change everything. Subscribe to hear what happened next, because the world didn't stop at that salute, and neither did Jenny. Stay tuned.